Camilla is finally finished. William and Catherine just joined forces and pushed her out of the monarchy completely. She is no longer in charge of anything. Catherine now stands in her place and makes every single decision that used to belong to her. But the worst part for Camilla is the shocking new decision they made about her future, one that has sealed her fate for good. She ran straight to Charles and pleaded with him to change it. Nobody saw what he did next coming, something no king has ever done before. The silence. Somebody inside the palace tried to bury this story before it ever saw daylight, and William, he wasn't having it. Word reached him that someone close to the family wanted the announcement pushed back, buried under other headlines where nobody would even notice it. William said no. He wanted this out now, before anyone in that palace got the chance to quietly strangle it in a back room. So the statement went out early. Princess Charlotte was now the royal guardian of the crown. There was nothing anyone could do about it now. Behind closed doors, Charlotte sat beside her mother, Catherine, hearing the full weight of what those words actually meant for the first time. She did not smile. Her hand gripped the edge of her chair so hard her knuckles went pale. She was genuinely worried and frightened. She was about to become her brother George's main support. She would carry charity work. She would stand in for him during emergencies. And let's be clear, George lost nothing here. He was still first in line, still the one who would wear the crown one day. Nothing was taken from him. But something was being handed to Charlotte that nobody her age had ever been trusted with before. Something huge. An aide placed the sealed plan on the table. William opened it and read the final line twice, like he needed to check his own eyes weren't lying to him. This wasn't some ceremonial title to smile for cameras with. This was real power. Training, private briefings, the right to act for George himself if disaster ever struck the country. Catherine watched her husband's face and felt her stomach turn because she understood something William hadn't fully admitted yet. What if this gift cost their daughter everything ordinary about her life? William signed it anyway. Then he looked at Charlotte and told her, plain and simple, that this was never about standing behind her brother. It was about standing beside him. Charlotte looked at her mother, then at her father. She said nothing at all. And that silence? It said more than any speech ever could. Word spread fast after that. Messages poured in from every corner of the family. Warm words, proud words. But Camilla? What she did next shocked everyone. The queen consort read the announcement, and her calm cracked wide open. Behind closed doors, away from the cameras, she exploded. What were they thinking handing such power to a little girl? She spat the question at her own staff, demanding to know how this had been allowed to happen without her. She stormed through her private rooms and declared that William and his family had just made the biggest mistake of their lives. And she wasn't finished. Not even close. She swore right there that she would make every single one of them regret it. William had no idea any of that was happening. All he saw was the silence from Camilla. Not one public word from Camilla at all. But in that one small, cold silence, he understood something the rest of the family hadn't figured out yet. This was only the beginning. And here's the thing. William could hear real worry buried somewhere in her voice. But underneath that worry sat something else entirely. Something colder. She wasn't just protecting tradition, she was protecting an order, an old familiar order that this plan was about to blow wide open. And whatever was eating at her about that, she wasn't ready to say it out loud. Not yet. The conspiracy. That week, Camilla furiously summoned William to a private room in the palace. This title, she told him, was going to confuse people. It was going to invite comparisons the family simply wasn't ready to handle. She shoved the folder back across the table like it had personally offended her, and that's when she really started swinging. She argued that giving Charlotte this kind of title, jumping straight past the normal path everyone else had to walk, would look like a slap in the face to Anne, Edward, and Sophie. 3 royals who had spent years, decades even, earning every duty they carried for Charles, one slow step at a time, with no shortcuts and no title handed to them early. How would it look, she asked, if a child skipped that whole line entirely and landed at the front before she'd even grown up? This is stupid, she blurted, but let's call that out for exactly what it was. Camilla and Anne have never gotten along. Not once. Not in public and not behind closed doors. She didn't care about Anne's feelings one bit. Anne's name was just a shield, something respectable to hide behind while she fought for something far more personal. William kept one hand flat on the folder, refusing to let her pull it back again, and he answered calmly. Too calm, almost. He told her this wasn't an insult to anyone. This was built for the smaller monarchy George would one day inherit, a family that could no longer afford to leave its future king isolated, or his sister standing around with no purpose at all. Camilla's voice dropped lower, softer. But don't be fooled, because the tension in that room only got worse. She asked if Charlotte was even old enough to carry something this heavy. Then she crossed a line nobody saw coming. She stopped pretending this was about Charlotte at all. She said it straight to his face. This whole thing was Catherine's doing, a mother grabbing power and calling it duty so nobody could call it selfish. Because at the end of the day, it wouldn't really be Charlotte holding that power. It would be Catherine pulling every string from behind her daughter's back, hiding behind a child's name while she called the real shots herself. William's face went cold in an instant. He got in close, voice low and hard, and told her to never talk about his wife like that again. Not ever. Catherine wasn't in that room trying to grab power for anyone. She just wanted her daughter looked after properly. The way he stood up for Catherine like that disgusted her, right there in front of her, without a second of hesitation. What gave him the right to speak to her, the queen consort, in that tone? Who did he think he was? For a second, something else slipped out from underneath all her arguments, something rawer than tradition or protocol. She told William that she had spent decades in this family fighting for every scrap of respect she ever got. Nobody handed her anything. She earned every single bit of power she now held, one slow year at a time. And now here was a child, barely old enough to understand what real power even meant, being handed all of it in one afternoon. William caught it instantly. This was never really about Charlotte being too young, or about Anne, or about tradition at all. This was about Camilla herself and how much it hurt her to watch a child get given in one signature what took her a lifetime to build. Then she warned him that this title was going to change the whole temperature of the family. William didn't blink. At that point, William was done listening to what he would later refer to as her senseless talks. Then he dropped the real blow. He told her that Charles had already privately agreed to this months ago. William let that sit for a second, then leaned in with a small, mocking smile. Funny, wasn't it, that Charles never told her? Made her wonder why. Maybe he already knew exactly how she'd react. Maybe he simply didn't trust her with it at all. The only signature still missing was William's own, as Charlotte's father and as the next king. Camilla was shocked to learn Charles knew about everything. She went completely silent. William then picked up the folder, stood, and walked out, leaving her standing there with nothing left to throw at him. But Camilla wasn't finished, not even close. She decided to go around William entirely. She requested a private audience with Charles, still convinced, even now, that she could soften this, delay this, maybe even kill it altogether. And that's exactly when everything blew wide open. Before Charles had even finished reading both versions of the plan side by side, part of the succession proposal leaked straight to a royal reporter. The story that hit the headlines framed Charlotte as a child being handed power above royals who had earned theirs the hard way, the exact kind of public fury Camilla had warned about just hours earlier. William's office had to scramble fast to contain the damage before it shaped public opinion, and worse, before Charles had even made his final call. When they traced the leak back, it led straight to someone inside Camilla's own staff. She denied knowing a single thing about it. But here's what she never explained. Why did that leaked story match her private complaints almost word for word? With the leak already causing chaos, Camilla marched straight to Charles and tried a new angle entirely. She argued that a role carrying this much power, the right to act for George during a national emergency, couldn't just be settled quietly inside a family. She wanted it dragged into formal government review. Think about that for a second. She was willing to pull the entire monarchy into public political fire just to stop one girl from getting a title. Charles shut her down immediately. He made it clear William had already made his decision, and he wasn't going to overrule it. But to understand why William was fighting this hard, you have to go back 6 months, to the one afternoon that started all of this, long before any folder, any leak, or any fight in that room ever existed. The boy who was left alone. It happened at the Commonwealth Youth Service, a huge royal event held at St. George's Hall, packed with young people from across the Commonwealth. George was set to give his very first formal speech that day. William was meant to stand right beside him. Charlotte and Louis were just meant to sit nearby and watch, nothing more. Minutes before George was called forward, he overheard something he was never meant to hear. 2 officials talking low, using words like concerning, words like not the first time this month. And just like that, George's whole world tilted. This wasn't nerves about forgetting a few lines anymore. He suddenly believed someone he loved might be seriously ill, that nobody was telling him the truth, and that he was about to walk out on that stage while everything behind the scenes was quietly falling apart. And then, without a word, William immediately left the hall. He didn't even glance at George on his way out, just a flash of pure worry crossing his face before he disappeared through a side door with an aide. Nobody told the family what was happening. It would take months before whispers started making their way around the palace, that William had been rushed off to take an urgent call, that someone close to him, maybe Charles, maybe even Catherine, had suddenly fallen unwell that very same afternoon. But in that moment, standing in that hall, nobody knew a thing. All they knew was that William had vanished, and George was now standing there completely alone. The program couldn't wait. Guests were already seated. Officials were whispering behind their hands. He said the public's trust and attention sat with Catherine now, and the family had 2 choices in front of them. Accept that reality and act on it, or ignore it completely and watch support for the monarchy quietly fall apart. He said this wasn't cruelty. This was the family choosing to survive. Camilla turned to Catherine next. She asked her directly if she had personally requested any of these events. Catherine said no, and she had answered honestly, yes. Camilla pushed harder. She asked if Catherine believed popularity alone should decide who holds real power in this family. Catherine didn't back down. She said popularity can fade one day, sure, but ignoring what the public wanted right now would only make things worse for everyone, including Charles. Camilla asked one more question. Was Catherine protecting her out of respect, or simply protecting the palace from bad headlines? Catherine said both things mattered, but neither one changed the real problem sitting in front of all of them. The family needed something the public could believe in, and it could not keep waiting forever for the next generation to step up. Then Camilla asked the one question underneath every other question she had asked that day. Would Catherine take her place beside Charles at the events that actually mattered? Catherine's answer came calm and final. She would stand exactly where the family needed her to stand. Nothing more, nothing less. The ultimate betrayal. Camilla was still sitting at that table, and she wasn't finished yet. She had done her research well, and she had stumbled upon something ugly. Anne had also been involved in this cruel decision to push her out. And the whole time she had just sat there like she had done nothing? Well, Camilla was done putting up with that act. So she turned and looked straight across the table at her. Her jaw tightened. Anne didn't look away. Camilla asked her directly if she had known they were planning to do this. Anne glanced at Charles first, like she was checking whether he wanted her to soften it. He said nothing. She looked back at Camilla and admitted it plainly. Yes, she had known. The room went completely still. And that was the moment years of quiet resentment finally rose to the surface in Camilla. She reminded Anne, in front of everyone at that table, that in all the years she had been part of this family, Anne had never once curtsied to her. Not one single time. Not at a single event. Not in a single hallway. Not even in private. She said it out loud now because she wanted everyone in that room to understand exactly what this moment really was. This wasn't just about schedules and duties. This was Anne finally getting to act on something she had felt for years and never had the excuse to say. Camilla sat up straighter in her chair and told her plainly that whether Anne liked it or not, she was still the queen. Anne's mouth curved into a small, cold smirk. She asked Camilla if that was really the best she had, or if she had anything stronger. Camilla's hands clenched under the table. Her chest tightened, and for a moment she couldn't find a single word to throw back. Anne didn't stop there. She said the family had a responsibility to plan properly for the next 20, 30 years, and that future belonged to William and Catherine, not to sentiment. Then she added the part that cut the deepest. She reminded Camilla of her age and said plainly that realistically, she would not be part of most of those coming years. That answer hurt more than if Anne had simply lied to her. The meeting ended abruptly. When Camilla realized no one was going to change a thing, she got up and walked out. Later that evening, some reports claim Camilla found herself alone with Charles for the first time all day, and that's when she poured out her heart. She asked him whether he had ever truly believed she belonged at the center of this family, or whether he had only needed her there until he didn't anymore. Charles didn't answer straight away. He looked at her for a long moment, searching for some version of the truth that wouldn't destroy her. He couldn't find one. He told her, quietly, that he had loved her, but that was never going to make the public love her too. Camilla felt something in her chest give way completely. She asked him, barely above a whisper, to take it back. He said nothing at all. He simply sat there and let the silence answer for him. Erased by the king. A week later, another meeting got called, and this one hit completely different from the second everyone sat down. A senior advisor walked in holding a second document, way thicker than the folder from before. This one wasn't about next month's calendar. This covered everything big going forward: coronation anniversaries, Commonwealth events, state banquets, every single major moment the family would need someone to lead if Charles ever had to step back further. Camilla reached for it right away. The advisor pulled it back before she could even touch it. Not signed yet. William had already reviewed it. Catherine had already agreed to it. The only signature missing? Charles's. Everyone got sent out so Charles could sit with it alone. Girl, he didn't even touch it at first. He just sat there thinking about 3 different reasons people had already thrown at him. William kept saying the family needed to get ready early instead of waiting until there was an actual problem. Catherine had already shown him with her own 2 hands that she could handle the work without a single mistake. And then there was Camilla. Years of loyalty, years of history, and his own promise that his time as king wasn't just going to be some short wait before William swooped in and took it all. William walked back in first, and he didn't waste a second. He told Charles straight up they couldn't afford to wait anymore. State visits and Commonwealth relationships needed certainty right now, not months down the line. He reminded Charles again that crowds already responded to Catherine everywhere she went, that organizers were already calling and asking for her by name. Charles looked up and asked him point blank, "Is popularity really what should decide something this huge?" William didn't back down for 1 second. He said no, but ignoring what the public already wanted would only blow up in their faces later. Camilla walked in before Charles could even answer that. She reminded him, one more time, that cutting her out would make him look temporary, like his entire reign only existed to warm the seat until William was ready. William's whole face changed. He told her flat out this had nothing to do with applause. This was about making sure the family survived for decades, and refusing to plan now would only leave everything wide open later. Charles had heard enough. He sent everyone out except Anne, and Anne didn't sugarcoat a single word. She told him straight, this decision had to be his, only his. Not William's, not Catherine's, not Camilla's. She warned him if he signed just because his son pushed him into it, resentment would follow him for years. And if he refused just to protect his wife, the uncertainty hanging over everything would only get worse. Charles sat with that for a long moment. Then he picked the document back up. He read Camilla's name printed right there on the page, read it twice. Then he grabbed the pen and crossed it out himself. One clean stroke, no hesitation, no second thoughts. He dictated new wording to the advisor standing right beside him, no mention of Camilla anywhere in it. Just one line. William and Catherine would take over public duties whenever the king needed support. He signed it before the advisor even finished writing it down. That evening, the palace released the update, and honestly, it barely made a ripple compared to what happened exactly 1 week later. It happened at a public reception, a small event. Catherine walked in first, and the room changed instantly. Heads turned, conversations stopped halfway through. People started moving toward her before she'd even taken a few steps inside. Charity leaders wanted photos. Diplomats waited patiently just to steal 30 seconds of her time. Everyone wanted a handshake. Everyone wanted a moment. Wherever Catherine went, the crowd followed. Then Camilla stepped forward to greet a group near the entrance. And this was brutal. She got a few polite smiles, a couple of quick handshakes. Then it was over. Nobody asked for a photograph. Nobody waited their turn to speak to her. Within seconds, people were already drifting away straight back to Catherine. It was like Camilla had never walked into the room at all. And trust me, everyone noticed. You could almost feel people pretending not to look while looking anyway, because this wasn't just an awkward moment. It wasn't one bad event. Right there, in front of everybody, the room had quietly answered a question the family had been trying not to ask. Who does the public actually want? And the answer couldn't have been clearer. For a monarchy that survives because people choose to support it, that reaction wasn't embarrassing. It was a warning. The crowd had already chosen its future. The family was simply catching up. William watched the whole thing from across the room. He didn't need anyone to explain what had just happened. After the event, he found Camilla and told her something that landed even harder than the silence she'd just experienced. What happened in that room wasn't new. It had been true for years. The only difference was this was the first time she'd been standing there to see it with her own eyes. A title without a throne behind it. Camilla found Catherine alone after that meeting. She didn't waste any time. She reminded Catherine that she had spent decades trying to earn her place in this family, working her way up next to Diana, a woman the public still compared her to, a woman she could never beat in their eyes no matter what she did. And now, here was Catherine, walking into that same spotlight, getting instantly, effortlessly, everything Camilla had fought years for. So she asked her straight up, did any part of her feel guilty for that? Catherine responded immediately. She said the public compared Camilla to Diana for years, and Camilla never once won that fight. Not one single time. And that's exactly why none of this surprised her. Then Camilla pushed even further. She asked if the crown had ever actually wanted her, Camilla, standing at the center of everything in the first place. Catherine's answer hit like the final blow of the entire night. No, the crown wanted Charles. Camilla was only ever chosen by him, not by the family, not by the public, not by the institution she gave her whole life trying to belong to. She was only ever tolerated because one man loved her. Catherine didn't wait for Camilla to walk away first. She did, without ever looking back. Words would fail to describe the shock on Camilla's face as she did. Later that night, Charles found her alone. He tried pulling apart the public side of their family from what they actually meant to each other privately, insisting titles and schedules had nothing to do with their marriage. Camilla wasn't buying it for a second. She hadn't spent decades clawing her way to the center of this family just to be told the center didn't matter anymore. He reminded her she was still queen, and this is the line that changed everything between them. A title can sit on paper long after the real power behind it is already gone. You can keep the crown sitting on your head, but if nobody's listening to you anymore, if nobody's asking for you anymore, that title means absolutely nothing. Charles gave her nothing back. No comeback, no defense, just silence. And that silence was louder than anything he could have said. The very next morning, one small detail confirmed none of this was temporary anymore. A briefing about upcoming Commonwealth events went out. William's office got it first. Catherine's people got copied in right after. Camilla's team got it last, almost as an afterthought. Small detail, right? But everyone inside that palace understood exactly what it meant. This wasn't one bad week anymore. This was simply how things worked now. Every single day going forward. Publicly, Camilla gave them nothing. She smiled when she had to smile. She said nothing critical to a single reporter. But the royal family knew her calm in public wasn't a defeat. It was the beginning of something the rest of that family had absolutely no idea was already coming for them. Surely Camilla would be planning her comeback, but every single one would be ready for her.